Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Adam J. Pestridge, and if you're watching this, you might be experiencing some issues with your Assassin's Creed games. You might have trouble running it or getting it loaded. If you are, stay tuned. We're going to go through all the fixes, all the glitches, and hopefully get you playing your Assassin's Creed within 30 minutes, baby. So first off, little disclaimer, I'm relatively new to the Assassin's Creed franchise. I've had Assassin's Creed games on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, but I never really completed any of them. I never really played them lots. And so now I've just got them on the PC and I'm loving them. I'll tell you, I'm absolutely loving them. Although I'm not loving Ubisoft as a company who make them, I'm very appreciative that they are making them and that they have, but I do find that their customer service is somewhat lacking, which is probably some of the problems you've been facing. So I've just started playing these games. I'm not trying to pretend to be like the guru wizard who knows everything. I'm just simply telling you what's worked for me and putting all that knowledge into one location so you haven't got to scour the internet to try and get your original Assassin's Creed game going or your latest Odyssey game going. First off, I think some of the issues, to be honest, can be attributed to Ubisoft because they're not very quick with their response if you open a ticket of support. I've had like 3 or 4 tickets open for like a week and nobody's responded at all to any of them. Now, currently there is a situation going on in the world which may have delayed response time. I don't know if this is normal or not, but from what I've read on the internet, they're not very fast at the best of times giving you support, and when they do, it's very generic support, like just update your drivers, defrag your hard drive, stuff like that. So I think a lot of the issue that a lot of trouble you personally will be facing will be the frustration with the developer who makes these games. Now, a second disclaimer I want to say is that everybody's got a different hardware setup. Everyone's got different software, like operating system. I'm running Windows 10 to the latest update. You might be on Windows 7 or 8 and you might not have the latest update, or you're on Windows 10 and not have the latest update. So just remember that everyone's got a different setup, and so therefore the one problem and the one solution that worked for Jimmy down the road might not specifically work for you, and one problem or one solution to your problem that does work may not work for little Jimmy down the road. So it's never a one solution for everybody. It's probably not even gonna have to be, you're gonna have to do all of these things that I say. You might only need to do one of these things, so just bear that in mind. Of course, we're only talking about the PC, we're not talking about PlayStation or Xbox issues, and we're not also talking about if you've pirated the game, if you've downloaded it off a torrent site. We're talking about legitimately bought games only, and that can either be through the Uplay app, such as this, maybe even from Steam, or if you've even bought it from an alternative site that offered a discount and just gave you an activation code, or the original retail discs themselves. Now, for me, to be honest, this Uplay thing here, I think is half the burn, to be honest, for getting this going, because I've never had that much experience with it. I've only been using this a week, and the problems I faced just even running this thing were just crazy. Were just absolutely crazy. It took me a long time getting Uplay set up. Now, Uplay will come with any recent copy of any Assassin's Creed game. It will automatically come as part of that install, but forget that. Just uninstall it as soon as you get it. That one will most likely not be an up-to-date version It doesn't like download it on the fly. It's actually within the installation itself, so you could have an old outdated copy, and that's why it's not working. So what I would say is I would head over to the ubisoft.com or the uplay ubisoft.com and download the most up-to-date version that they have on their website. That way you're working with the most up-to-date version instead of an old version, and that's probably one of the stumbling blocks why you can't get it started. Now, one of the things that I found as well is that Uplay for some reason isn't been well made, to be honest. If you try and run it as an admin, it won't actually start. So if we apply that and we run this as an administrator, it just goes, oh, and it won't actually run. See, connection lost. There seems to be a problem with your internet connection. And if you haven't ever loaded it at all on your computer and you try and go offline like it says here, switch to offline mode, it actually then turn around and say, well, actually you've got to run it at least once before you can go offline. And this will never start for some reason if you try and run it as admin. So I'm going to take that admin off. You don't need to really run it in compatibility mode for anything. But if I just try to run it as it is, to be honest, this isn't going to load either. And there has a real issue Uplay does for some reason with the proxy server on your PC. So first off, what we have to do, if we want Uplay to work, which is the first sort of stumbling block for anything, you know, because you have to have this application running when you play your games of Assassin's Creed. And it doesn't matter if you bought it from Steam or it's on a disc, Uplay has to be running in order for you to play your game. It's so silly. So first off, we have to disable our proxy server in order for Uplay to actually work. Now, there's one of two ways you can do this. You can either go down to your task manager here and click on that and go to all settings, or you can go down here and type the word proxy in here and hit enter. Either way, you'll come to this screen here, and basically this here, just turn it off. That's it. You can minimize this, and then when you double click that, Uplay will actually now run. And that is the one most simplest fix for Uplay that I have found. As you can see now, it's initializing. That will actually run. There we go. So I'll just minimize that. I'm just going to start Steam as well now. If you're running Steam, okay, one of the things that I totally recommend is to run that as administrator. So go in to compatibility and choose to run this program as an administrator. Basically, if you've got your game from Steam, Steam's in charge. You know, not Uplay, Steam's in charge. Steam's how you've got your game, so you want that to actually run as administrator. Now, once you tick that box for compatibility, you don't need to actually run as administrator. You can quite literally just click the icon. It will flash up with a warning. It will say, oh, it's currently running, and some games might not like this, but for Assassin's Creed, it does. It's necessary. Keep it. Now, when you load up your Steam account, and I'll just bring it over here so you can see it. Here's my Assassin's Creed games. As you can see, you got the original, got Odyssey, I got Origins through Steam, that is. One thing you definitely want to do is once you've downloaded your files, go to right-click onto Properties on the actual game and go to Local Files, and you want to verify the integrity of those files. Now, this is true if you've downloaded it through Uplay as well. You can verify your files. If you've got it off your DVD, to be honest, I'm really unsure if there is an actual option to verify your files that have installed correctly. If there is, run that process. If not, whatever. There we go. That's done. They've all been validated. Now I know that Assassin's Creed is running in my PC the way it should. But if I tried to run this now, it wouldn't actually work. Okay, there's still a few more things we need to do for the original Assassin's Creed game to run. Now, there's a multitude of fixes that you could apply here. The one I found to be the best one that works, so the one we'll start with, is this here. If I try to run and you have to kind of run it in administrator mode, the game, okay? I've also run it in compatibility mode for Windows Vista. I'm on Windows 10 with the latest patch, but if I try to run this game, it's actually going to crash, okay? I'll show you what I mean. So it's going to look like it's going to load, but then as soon as it hits that, it's dead. There we go. That ain't going to load now. That's just crashed, okay? And that's where a lot of you probably are stumbling, I think, on Assassin's Creed. What you need to do first off to get around this, close the program down, is first off, run the test app, okay? If you can run this test app and it does work, which it's now going to do exactly the same thing, and there you go. Loaded, right? Now we're going to come out of this because that will now work, but obviously I don't want it to. So if you can run that like that, okay, then you know you can run the game, but you might not be able to run it from this one. You might have to run it from DirectX 10 instead, okay? So I put my shortcuts in here and I run it from this. And when I run it from this, the game works and it's playable. Okay? Now, to be honest, the first Assassin's Creed for me, this is the remastered version. It's a little bit it just wants to play the cutscene straight away, and it's a while before you can actually get to your menu system, so I'm not going to bore you with that one. We're going to come out of that straight away. It's a 32-bit game, so it does have limitations, but that's how I run Assassin's Creed. Now, that is all the steps that I've needed to take in order to run that. One thing I would recommend, no matter what game you're trying to run, is your graphics card. Now, there's been a global happening, right, recently. I'm running Nvidia, okay? I am actually not updated to the latest Nvidia because I'm using drivers from mid-March. I'm on 445.75. So I'm on drivers that have come from just before, you know, this outbreak in the UK, which for us, it was kind of like early March, late February. So I've rolled my drivers back to before that time because I think Ubisoft are not, obviously, you know, no one's working from their studio. They're all working from home. And so I don't think they're as quick to patch games or fix bugs or update to work with current drivers as quick as they have been in the past. So basically, I'm not going to update my driver like it wants me to until at least a couple of months away, you know. You might find you run into problems with other programs that do need up-to-date drivers, but for Assassin's Creed, they actually don't run if you do update your drivers, like the tech boys say. They say make sure you're running the latest updated drivers. Well, don't, because Assassin's Creed games will not run with up-to-date drivers. Okay? Now, another thing that I find as well is sometimes your game, especially the original Assassin's Creed, may crash. It starts to work, but then it dies, and you're like, hey, what happened there? If you ever get a crash of any kind, right, what you need to do is go to the search option, type in run, and bring up your run program here, and type in msinfo32, okay, and click OK, and it'll bring up your system information file. Now, this is basically a dashboard of your entire PC system, okay? And if you go to software environment and Windows error reporting, it's going to display every single error that's been reported by your system. Now, every time you've had a game crash or a driver crash or anything that's a problem, it logs it as an error reporting code. So basically, it's going to take a while as well to bring up the information, so we may have to cut to later. But when you have a Assassin's Creed game crash, and this goes across any of the games now, you want to find out why, because it might be simply one single file that the game doesn't like, which is preventing it from loading. There we go. So once this all comes up, if you go to File and Save, okay, and save it to your desktop just for easiness, and I'm going to name this one Text, just again for easiness, and you want to save it. It's going to take a while before it's actually going to finish and save it to your desktop. So we're just going to leave that to run, and then we're going to come back when it's done. Okay, so once you've completed that, you want to go to the text file where you've saved it. I've saved it on my desktop, and you want to right click on it and you want to open with Notepad. Now again, that's going to take a little bit of time to open because there's a lot of text to open. And what we want to do is we want to look for the reason what's making your game crash. So we want to find an instance of what is going to make it crash, and that's your executable. So Assassin's Creed ACS.exe, you want to find all the instances of that, and what you're looking for is a certain word, which is here, faulting module name. There it is right there, faulting module name. Now there's going to be a DLL that comes after that, okay, which is this here. So copy that. That's the file that's making your game crash. Remove that file, your game will run no problem. So first off, we need to actually search for that file. Now I always find that the file is always in your Windows on your C drive, in System 32, the driver store and file repository. So basically, if you copy and paste the name of the file, so we right click and copy like that, and then search this file. Now it shouldn't really come up because I've already removed it, so it shouldn't actually find anything. So yeah, no items match your search, but it will actually have the path to that file here. So if we go there and just copy all that there, you can copy and then pop this in here as paste and hit enter, and it'll take you straight to that folder where that file sits. So the file we're looking for is NVOPENCL64, which, to be honest, it shouldn't actually be here. I'll be very surprised if I kind of do find it here. So NVOP, yeah, so that's the 32 version of it, and the 64 version is not there because I've cut it out and I've pasted it elsewhere. I haven't deleted it, I've just put it somewhere else, and where I've put it is on another drive here, somewhere here it is, which it seems to have disappeared. That's not it there, but anyway, I put it somewhere else. So I haven't deleted it, I haven't gotten rid of it, I've just moved it to a different location. And if we actually try and go to find another instance, and you'll find exactly the same. I mean, I've tried this a few times, so there's been a few crashes, and it's the same file name. Now, it might not be this file name for you, and it might not be that file location for you, but this is the process of how you can find out where that file location is and remove that file. And once you do, you can bin that now, your game will run. Okay, that's the main issue. As long as you've got your game, and you might have to run the DX10 or even the DX9 if you're on older systems. As long as you've got that in run as administrator mode, and you actually run it from the shortcut, not actually from Steam, because if you try and run it from Steam here and push play and it'll load up, I don't know actually if it will run. This might actually crash. There you go, it's crashed. So if you try and run it from Steam, it's adios muchachos, okay? It ain't gonna work. You have to run it from the actual, let me get back to it. you have to run it from the actual location of where you've saved your shortcuts. And I've made my own shortcut, and then I right click, and well, we've done that before, so we won't do that. So that's Assassin's Creed. Now this really applies to like the first 3 or 4 games of Assassin's Creed. If you can't get it to run, and this is the older games we're talking about, and it keeps crashing whilst you're playing, find out the reason why it's crashing and remove it. Or this is how you also get the game to actually run without crashing. So that takes care of crashes and getting older games to run. Now, a lot of people have had issues with activating their game. So they'll, they've got the Steam store. They'll try and play it. But then their Uplay account here starts asking for all sorts of like CD keys, but you don't have a CD key. It wasn't given to you. Now that's a problem of communication between Steam and Uplay, and it's a very simple and easy fix. If you've done exactly what we've talked about before, it will resolve this issue. So first off, go to your Uplay folder, wherever you keep Uplay. For me, it's in games, okay? And go to properties and make sure you're not running this in administrator mode, or compatibility mode for anything. And that when you do actually click it to activate it, you just double click it and that's it. You don't have to run as admin at all. But then also your Steam, make sure you do run this as administrator mode, by right clicking on the shortcut and ticking the compatibility box to run in compatibility mode. Now, when you fire up the game from within Steam for the first time, if the game does load, what will happen if you're not already running Uplay will try and load as well. Now, what you want to do is you want to try and if we go to, say, for instance, these 2 games I bought off Steam, and this one I actually bought through Uplay. So we'll go to Origins, and you go down to Properties. Okay, it won't be here, but on Steam, you'll have exactly a similar thing. If we right click, go to Properties, bring this over, and go to Local Files, and make sure you verify the integrity of all the game files. That's important to do that. You won't have to uninstall and reinstall or anything like that, but definitely verify integrity of game files. Okay, once you're sure that all the game files are in there, once you're sure that all the game files are verified, that they're actually in there, then exit out of Uplay, okay, completely, and just have your Steam running and try and load the game from here. Click play, and what will happen is Uplay will actually load up now. There it is. That's Uplay running. Don't worry about that. Skip that. And it will ask you to connect your Steam account. If you haven't got your Steam account connected, right, to Uplay, then it'll ask you for a CD key. And if you haven't been given one, you'll be like, well, what do I do now? Well, you don't do anything now, because basically, first off, you just need to connect your account to your Uplay from Steam. So let me exit out of this, because we don't actually want Origins to run like it is. We just want Uplay to run. So let's bring up Uplay. There we go. And if you go to Origins here, and you go, sorry, your account, sorry. You go to your account. Where are we? Here. Settings. Account linking. You want to make sure it says Steam. Okay? If it doesn't say Steam, what's happening is Uplay is detecting that the game is trying to run, and it's going, well, hang on a second. I haven't given you guys permission, and it's actually denying and say, unless you give me a key, mate, you ain't going anywhere, right? Now, I have also seen people say that if you disable the in-game overlay for supported games, that it also will not run properly, and I can verify that. If I untick this and try to run Origins, it would not run. Having this ticked, even though you're not going to use it, is important. These are my settings that I use for Uplay. These are the ones that work for me, and feel free to utilize that. But you definitely need your account linked to Steam, because if you don't, it's still going to ask for a CD key. And of course, you haven't got a CD key if you bought the most recent ones, because they don't do that anymore. And that's where you're getting stuck. Okay, so if it doesn't ask you for a CD key and you don't see your Steam account, basically what you need to do is you kind of need to remove a file folder. Okay. Uplay is basically saying, well, it's saying nothing. It's keeping quiet when actually it should be saying something. So if you go into your local C drive, into Program Files 86, Ubisoft Game Launcher, into the cache, there is a folder here called Ownership. Okay, and basically what you need to do is delete that folder. Delete the whole folder, empty your recycle bin, right? It doesn't matter, because when you start Uplay up, it will generate this folder again, and then it will basically ask you when you start your game from Steam for a CD key, or for account linking rather, sorry, in order for the game to run. So if you're not getting that, please connect your account from Uplay, delete that ownership folder, and it will ask it on the next time. Now, a lot of people have had it where it crashes or it stalls when you're playing the intro to a game, and that can be a bit of a bummer. That can be a bit of a heartache. So one thing I've noticed is sometimes my game will crash when it's basically loading up the intro screen, and that's a bit of a pain as well, isn't it? So if we go into where our game is actually saved, so in the Steam folder, apps, common, and we'll use Assassin's Creed, there's a videos folder. Okay, now I don't have to do this, as you can see, but if you change the name of this by adding a 1 at the end, it will basically skip that video. It won't play it at all, because obviously the name isn't there. It doesn't recognize this file now, and it'll just skip that. Now, the ones I find that are a bit glitchy are these last two, because they're really tiny. So if you just put a 1 after these, it will skip these two files. It'll just load up them 3 and then go straight on to something else. Now, if you just want to go straight to your main menu when you load up the game, if you put a 1 in front of all of these, it will then just go straight to your menu system and bypass all those videos. So if your game is crashing on one of the videos, and you're like, to be honest, I don't actually want to see these videos, I just want to get straight to the menu, then just put a 1 after all of these files. Don't delete them, don't actually change the name of them, just put a 1 after each and every one, and it will skip it during the load up sequence, and you're good to go there. Man, there's so many, honestly, there's so many glitches with these games, guys. It really is a pain in the butt. Now, another thing I've seen is people who store their game anywhere else but their C drive. Now, my C drive is an SSD drive, and Assassin's Creed games, no matter what game you run, play better off an SSD drive than they do off a HDD drive or any other drive, like a Windows managed file drive, where you've pooled spare empty space into a single and created a virtual drive in order to save space. They don't really run well off that, and to be honest, that seems like a bit of a weird way to run a game anyway. But if you haven't got the space on your main C drive, that's an alternative way to look into it. Like, I've got 12 gig free here, I've got 4 gig here, so I could create a hard drive that's basically 16 gig in size, and it would be a separate one, and then these two would go just disappear in terms of this free space. I basically just recommend running it off the C drive wherever possible, and you don't have to rename audio files, or you don't have to junction link in audio files. But if you are doing it the other way, where you're pooling your free space together into a virtual drive, basically the sound files don't like to do that. So you have to then remove your sound files from your game folder and then junction link them back in, symbolic links, back into the game from another drive that is an actual drive. It sounds so complicated, and it is. And the best way to avoid that is just to use your C drive, and where possible an SSD drive, and it eliminates all that rubbish. If you are running your Steam account, or you've got your Uplay on another drive like a HDD drive, then you might face problems as well because of that. Again, try and run off the SSD drive, the hard drive. I mean, I've only got a 1 terabyte drive, and I've got loads of stuff on this drive, and yet I've still got 96 gig of free space. Windows only takes about 25 to 50 gig up of actual hard drive space. So invest in a bigger drive. It really will solve a lot of your problems. Other issues I faced, I mean, I had real big bad problems running the first game I bought, which was Odyssey, and I got it during the free weekend, and it just would not load at all. I spent hours and hours trying to troubleshoot it myself. I spent hours trying to contact Ubisoft for support. They've never gotten back to me, and that was like 2 weeks ago with this free thing, or a week ago. The one thing that I find that works the most is running Uplay not as admin, and running Steam as run as admin, and also not updating your graphics card, but rolling it back to a previous version that is before the 19th of March. So you might have to go back all the way to the 10th if you're on Nvidia, but doing to a graphics card driver date that was released before the 19th. And I find that the actual game will run. Excuse me. Always verify. I mean, there's a few best practices that you want to get into the habit of doing, like always verify your files when you buy the game, and if you buy it through Uplay or you buy it through Steam, verify those files. Make sure that the download hasn't been corrupted. Roll back your graphic card. If you've got a crash issue, find out the crash issue like the way we showed, and eliminate that file that's causing the crash issue. If it won't even load to begin with, it's most likely admin privileges are being given to the wrong program. You want your Steam account to have admin privileges. You want your Uplay account to not have admin privileges, and you want to disable your proxy server as well. If you're running a proxy server, Uplay just won't run. Have things running off the SSD drive where you can, and delete that ownership file if it's not picking up the fact that you've bought it from Steam. Basically, that's it, guys. That's all the issues that I faced with the running of these games. Now, all my games run fine. So unless Ubisoft step in and completely nuke me, I'm going to be playing Assassin's Creed on this channel for a while, starting with the first Assassin's Creed today, and I'll be live streaming Odyssey or Origins, I think, later as well tomorrow. So thanks for watching this video, guys. Let me know in the comments below, what issues have you faced? Have you overcome them? Have you got something different that you've tried that I haven't mentioned? And I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.